Hello, hello, and welcome to episode number 43 of the Wonder of Stuff podcast, broadcast live on Google Hangouts on Air every weekend. This is the place where you'll find news, information, and commentary on science, engineering, and technology subjects from the past week and beyond, and anything else that interests us from our tiny little human brains. My name, as ever, is John Gardner, and to help us out on the journey to knowledge, please let me introduce my esteemed colleagues, Richard Smith and Ross Davidson. Say hello, chaps.
Hello, chaps.
Jolly good. Are we all in fine fettle this week?
We are. I'm not hungover this week.
Oh, it's a revelation.
Did you use some of the keywords from last week?
Just a big bacon and egg sandwich.
Yeah.
Well, we did do food, didn't we? We did. What was one of them?
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, let's get kicked on for this episode. I'm first up, and that's something that I've called a very fast dog. Can you think what a very fast dog might be? It's Bloodhound.
I was going to say Richard's got a fast dog.
Yeah, it's a whippet. No, it's a greyhound. Sorry, yours is a greyhound, isn't it? Not a whippet. Yeah. No, well, this is a Bloodhound, and it's a Bloodhound SSC. It's the new. Now, what does SSC stand for? Supersonic car. That's what it stands for. Yeah. And it's the next in line to try and push the land speed barrier. You'll have seen the last one, which was Thrust 2. And then there was Thrust before that, and then there was a whole line of cars going right back to the turn of the 20th century when we first had automobiles. Anyway, this one is Bloodhound, and this week, I guess it's been designed and manufactured since back since 2008. That's when the whole project started. But I think this week was when the marketing sort of ramped up, and it started to be visible on various media outlets and stuff. So I'll give you a little bit of a background behind it. So like I said, it started in 2008, and its direct descendant is the Thrust land speed Thrust SSC, which was the last land speed one, and that was back in 1997. And then I think Thrust SSC did 2 land speed records within a few months of each other, and then before that there was Thrust 2, which was Richard Noble's one. And again, this one's got the backing of Richard Noble, and the guy who piloted Thrust SSC, Andy Green. He's now a wing commander. Oh yes, jolly good. He's wing commander in the RAF, and he's a fighter pilot, and he flies Typhoons and stuff. So he's admirably qualified to do this stuff. Anyway, so it's him. He's going to pilot it again, and this is what it looks like, and it looks damned spectacular. Let me just show you. Isn't that nice?
It does look very fast.
Yeah, and this is the first one, because all the previous ones. Well, okay, This started. The first land speed records back in the 1900s were electric cars, and then there was a steam one.
A steam car.
A steam car, yes. And I can tell you exactly when that was. Let me just whiz back. Oh, I'll show you this. The wonderful world of Wikipedia. You're not supposed to be seeing this. Yeah, there's a steam one there. It was Gardner as well. Hey.
75 miles an hour. It's not 75. Bad for a steam-powered car.
No, that's faster than mine currently. Yeah, so it's a steam-powered car, and then after that, the internal combustion engines came in, and that right the way through until the early '60s, it was internal combustion engine until '63, which is the Spirit of America, and that was a turbojet. That was the first one with a jet engine, and they've all been jets of one shape or another. Actually, that's not strictly true. In 1970, Blue Flame was an American one, and that was a rocket, but it wasn't as fast as Thrust, which was a turbojet, and then Thrust SSC was turbofan. But this one has a rocket and a turbojet on it. So it's got a Rolls-Royce Eurojet engine, which is the same one that they have in the Typhoons. Plus, it's got a hybrid rocket engine, and this is great because they're sponsored by Rolls-Royce and Jaguar. So Jaguar give all of the support vehicles, and they've also got inside it a Jaguar supercharged V8 engine, and that's just
to start it.
Yeah, well, essentially, it's to power the rocket pump.
Excellent.
And it does the auxiliary power unit as well. So I guess that when you're trundling it up to the starting line, it uses that, and for all the other electrics and stuff, it'll use that just the supercharged V8.
Yeah.
So like I said, Wing Commander Andy Green's going to do it again, and it's he's going to push 1,000 miles an hour. This is what he's going for.
Yeah, I was going to say, which was it? Thrust that broke the sound barrier. Was that the last? Was that just the last one?
Well, yeah. Thrust SSC was the last one, and that was the first one to go supersonic.
Yeah.
And that was 760 miles an hour over the. What was that over? That was over a kilometre.
Yeah. And this one's going over 1,000.
Yeah, it's 33. They're going for a 33% increase. And if basically they reckon that in 42 seconds it'll go from 0 to 1,000, which is fairly good. And the engine and the Andy Green will there'll be 2.5 Gs on his body when he's accelerating, and there'll be 3 Gs on his body when he's decelerating.
I bet the 0 to 500 times pretty rapid. Then I bet you a lot of that's the slowdowns towards as you get towards the top end, is it?
Yeah, probably. I would guess so.
Because 40 is as fast as it is. That actually sounds reasonably slow compared to how fast it's actually going to end up. 45 seconds seems like quite a long time, but I'm guessing that's like the final bit of it to get the the last few.
I guess I'm thinking that the turbo jet will kick in and then the rocket will go on.
Yeah.
So there'll be a period when it'll be at max.
How long a stretch of where they're doing it on the salt flats again? I take it.
Well, they did it last time. They did it at Black Rock Desert in the US.
That was it, yeah. Do we know how long a section of the desert they're going to have like thousands of people on their hands and knees picking up rocks? Because obviously it's something going that speed on wheels, the tiniest thing could be disastrous. So they're going to have to rush the entire track.
I think last year they did a test run, and this was only on the jet, and that was in, I think it was South Africa, and they had 12 miles cleared. So it's going to be of that.
Yeah,
I would have said.
And when are they planning on doing it? Is it this next summer? Is it? It's
next year. Yeah. And but this is the brakes as well. The brakes are fairly good as well because they've got disc brakes. They use disc brakes when it's below 250 mile an hour, and then they've got air brakes when it's below 800 miles an hour, and then they've got a parachute, of course. So yeah, but the interesting thing from this point of view is that actually I've got a little video which the technical side.
I bet the parachute's used with caution as well. I bet you that's once you've achieved it to slow you down rather than as something you can use. If it goes wrong, you probably can't, can you, by the sounds of it? A parachute's not something you want to be deploying unless everything's going according to plan.
It's got a tail fin, but it's got any sort of wings whatsoever. So if it does lift up, you're going to just loop over.
So once they hit the 800 mark, you're kind of like, there's no bringing it back.
Yeah, you're fairly committed. I don't think you can slam on the anchors or anything like that. I suppose you could kill everything and pull the parachute. Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. You'd have to do it before. Obviously, once the car's starting to move to the side.
Oh yeah,
you couldn't then use the parachute.
No, you just have to.
You could only use the parachute before then.
It's true, but what the bit? So that was the whole. That's the reason why I'm talking about it is because it's gone big. The PR machine's gone into overdrive and stuff like that. But the interesting thing was right at the end of the media reports, they were introducing somebody, the head of IT, and she came on and said, "Oh, but you know, the interesting thing is the fact that about all the telemetry," and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, boring." Right? Okay, that's the end of the news. But I've done some more little searching. There's not much about it, but what they're planning on doing is they're going to essentially. If you look at the cockpit, there's just 3 screens, and all of the telemetry on there, there's the speed and all of the metrics and everything, the indicators of anything, are on the other 2 screens, and the air brake status and all that stuff, parachute status. That is all going to be streamed live to an app as they're doing it, so you can actually see exactly what's happening in the car at the point you're doing it. But it's now that's really cool from a technological point of view, how they can stream that. But I can't find any more about it other than that's what they're planning on doing. I can't find any technology behind it, how they're going to stream it. But while I was looking for that, I found this other video, this is what they started doing on in January. And one of the things that I never really thought much about it, but I guess one of the big problems is keeping comms going while, you know, things are static or things are going in the opposite direction, and keeping that communication, you know, the signal right the way through the whole thing. Well, this is what they did. They did a test back in January of this year, and it was, I think it was a Typhoon. It was some jet, and a Jaguar F-Type going in the opposite direction.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Did you see that? I've got that here actually. So I thought I'd play it now, and show you. So this is the jet, and the idea is obviously that they're trying to keep communication for the whole. I'm not sharing. No. Oh yes, a blatant advert for Cisco, because obviously they're doing the networking. So this is the test. This is where they did the test run, and yeah, there's loads of stuff there. But he's going to tell us something. I just wanted to show the actual thing. So that's how they're doing the test, and at one point the jet was going one way, and the car was going the other, and they managed to keep a VHF signal. Now, VHS is reasonable, but if they're going to try and stream telemetry, you'd need a better signal than that. This is the head of IT. Well, not him. That's Richard Noble. This woman here is the head of IT. Anyway, it's not the video that I thought it was going to be, actually, to be honest. So, but yes, so some interesting technological things about and technological hardships really that they have to encounter and overcome to get what they actually want. So they, in some ways, the speed record is kind of the small bit of it. It's the bit that they're going to do, but in order to do that, they have to get all of this other stuff around it, and increase the media presence and having all this these little gimmicks.
That's the thing. I mean, obviously, the actual breaking the speed record is by the by, because they're going to break it by 33%. So they're obviously going to break it, assuming nothing goes wrong. Deciding to go up to 1,000 miles an hour is mad, but because that's.
Yeah, I mean, it will. It's not, you know. I was trying to come up with some comparisons, and I wanted to know how far away it was from the fastest aircraft that had ever, and that's the X-71 Bluebird. But it's a fair way from that, because that I think that gets up to like 4,000 miles an hour or something.
Yeah, that's got the advantage of being high in the air, though, where the air's really thin.
Yeah, so. I mean, the problem obviously is, yeah, we've got air resistance, but the biggest one will be the fact the resistance on the tires.
Yeah.
Are they actually tyres? What are they using for wheels?
Um,
So I would assume
have a
that
look.
tyres wouldn't.
The look.
Tyres wouldn't handle. Yeah, they wouldn't handle the sort of G-forces of the wheel going around that fast with it. It's got to be some.
Well, this looks very metallic, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's it's spinning that fast. Anything that's not like totally and utterly rigid and strong would just fly. Just fall to pieces.
Yeah, they do look very metallic. Although I don't think I've got any information on what they're made of. But that's not. It's certainly not rubber.
Certainly not a tyre. Yeah.
They look inappropriately small, don't they, for what it's going to do?
So yeah, so you've got lots of interesting things actually.
I wonder if they actually have to dig in a little bit then. I wonder if they actually have to like
running grooves or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, they don't look much different to a train wheel.
Yeah.
And I guess that's probably the principle of it.
Yeah, just to stop it going that way or that way.
I wonder how small the sort of the gearing on the wheel is. Like in terms of obviously I'm assuming he's got a steering wheel of some sort. But obviously any slight movement's going to have to be such a tiny, tiny movement of the steering wheel at that speed. Otherwise you'll sort of overreact. It's got to be geared right down.
It'll be all fly-by-wire, won't it? So it'll be
probably changes as you get
faster. There'll be
faster.
artificial damping in, I would have thought.
Yeah.
So that you're not doing like this and going
Yeah.
I guess it's fairly, and plus the fact that there'll not be much that you, under normal circumstances, there'll not be much that you will have to correct.
No.
So I wonder how much of that is computer controlled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There'll be a hell of a load of little feedback loops constantly going and thinking, oh, it's going correct, it's going correct. So it's interesting, but
I look forward to that.
Yeah. So that is next year. But there are some other land speed records that are in the pipeline.
I was going to say actually, because the interesting thing about that sort of list that you had was the fact that obviously the early ones that were powered by steam and then combustion engine and stuff, they're actually powered by the wheels. I'm surprised that's not part of a different record, because obviously if the car's not powering itself via its wheels, is it technically a car? If it's just got a rocket strapped on the back, it probably should be a different.
Well, they are split. They are split.
Okay.
There is a wheel-driven. 1898 to 1965 were wheel-driven.
Uh-huh.
So there was a direct drive on the wheels, and
So
then
what was the fastest wheel-driven car?
The fastest wheel-driven car officially, because some of these are not official. The fastest one was, I guess it was a 1947 one. There was Donald Campbell did one in 1964, which was a Bluebird one, but that was a turbo shaft, and it doesn't look like it's got an official rating.
Mm.
But the last one was 1947 by John Cobb, who was another British guy, and that was 394 mile an hour.
Still
over the kilometre.
Mm-hmm.
And that 1947, that was only like 2 years after the war. That's that's to put it in perspective. That's fairly flying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then the rocket ones and the rocket and jet ones are completely separate. And they started around 65 or 63, and they've gone. Speed over a mile, they've gone like 407, 413, 434, and then 65, 555, 600 miles an hour, 622 in 1970, and then the thrust was 633, 714, and 763 over a mile. But it's the biggest jump. I think it's the biggest single jump to go from 763 to 1,000.
Yeah.
So, but yes, we'll all be able to watch it on our smartphones. We'll see all the telemetry. To be honest, that's what I'm looking forward to the most now.
Yeah.
And seeing what they have to deal with. And we all think we know what a Formula One driver has to deal with during the course of a race, and obviously it's got a lot of stuff coming in through his earpiece, but also on the steering wheel. There's lots of stuff, but this is going to be a magnitude more.
Yeah.
And in a much shorter period, you have to react. And in fact, possibly it's so fast. I don't know whether they could react. I mean, you can in air because you've got nothing around it, so you can do a turn, do a loop, whatever, to get out of a sticky situation. But if you're on the ground going straight forward, very fast.
I wonder how much of it's actually teaching yourself not to react.
Yeah.
Possible. Yeah. Possible. You will have to. I mean, the only people who could do it are the fighter pilots. There's nobody else I would think who could even attempt to do it.
It's true what they say about because I looked that up because I was always curious whether that's just something people say or whether it really is part of the training, but it is a massive part of the selection criteria. Reaction time, even now, it's still a major. You'd think, with all the technology that maybe just intelligent decision making might overtake reaction time, but seeming the reaction time still up there is the most important criteria, or one of.
Yeah, actually, there is something about wheels. They're solid aluminium because they're going to rotate at 10,200 RPMs.
Bloody hell!
Yeah, actually that is a stat alone. That's quite impressive. Yeah. Solid aluminium, 50,000 G.
10,000 rotation.
50,000 G.
Yeah, centrifugal force on the wheels.
Yeah, there's quite a few technological things.
Otherwise, your brain would just go. Not on your head.
So there you go. Anyway, I think I'll leave that for now. But yeah, so that's something to look forward to for next year, I think. And we'll obviously tell everybody about it when we're nearer the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, jolly good. Now the next one is Ross. Now this is something that I was actually planning on doing if I hadn't done the Bloodhound. So I'm pleased that Ross is doing it actually, and it's quite an interesting thing. This is a big announcement that NASA are going to make tomorrow.
Yeah. So basically, NASA at a press release on Thursday said they were going to hold a conference on Monday and detail a major science finding. And the headline on that press release is actually NASA to announce Mars mystery solved. So obviously this has got a lot of people talking about what it's going to be, and the usual of they've got evidence for life again, and this sort of thing. But what it's going to be about is actually, if you look at it's going to be on Monday. So it's 11:30 EDT, which is Eastern something time. Not sure what's going to be in the UK.
Eastern Daylight Time.
Yeah. So tomorrow at the NASA headquarters in Washington. And if you actually look at who the conference participants are going to be, there's Jim Green, who's the Director of Planetary Science at NASA, Michael Meyer, who's a scientist for the Mars Exploration Program, and there's someone called Lujendra Ojha of the Georgia Institute of Technology, and a couple of other people, Mary Beth Willem of the Ames Research Center, and Alfred McEwen, who's the principal investigator for the high-resolution imaging science experiment, the high-res camera.
The high-res camera,
yeah. And if you look at both those, the high-rise camera and the bloke from Georgia Institute of Technology, that gives you a good idea of what they're actually going to be talking about. And basically, Lujendra Ojha, he's written about how he thinks there's going to be liquid flowing water on Mars, and this is something that they've had evidence for before from photos from the orbiters. So I've got a couple of these to show you. Let me just get one of these up. Oh, hold on. Get the right browser and share this. This one.
So this is
So this is one of the animations.
Hello. I can see myself.
Oh, I'm showing the wrong screen. Hold on.
Hey.
Hold on.
Ross is a technical whiz, you know. We have it on good
So
authority.
well prepared on
Though
this
we
one.
haven't actually seen this in...
Let me try sharing the right screen.
Yay!
Literally
No.
the right screen. There we go. So can you see that now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, excellent. So yeah, so this is basically, you'll see at the top here, there's like a date little slider that's going past here. So this is sort of spring and summer months. And what you'll see here, this is like a sort of a, you can't tell the dimensions, but this is a slope on this crater. And what you'll see is you see these sort of basically marks that look like water flowing down that appear from the top level here and stretch out. There's another one, which I'll get as well, which is very similar. So here, again, you've got the sort of rocks at the top, and you've got the slope here.
Yeah.
And this bit here, just this area here is the most significant bit. And again, this is over sort of like 3-4 months.
That couldn't be just wind blowing it or any like a Martian wind.
It could be. I mean, this is the thing. Obviously, this is in terms of what they've got. These sort of, they call them, what do they call them? They call them recurring slope lineae, RSL. And basically what they've got is they've got this from the photos. So from the orbiters that are going around, they've got this photographic evidence of something going on in the slopes. What they have done is obviously there's all sorts. We've talked about this before. The different sort of like equipment that you have on all these orbiters and stuff that go to planets and moons and stuff like that. They have got one which measures sort of like what will it be? It'll be I don't know, like a thermal imaging or a, what would you call it? The one that tries to work out what something's made of. But what they've done is they've analysed it. It doesn't actually return the signature of water, so they're still not sure what it is. So what they think it is a sort of a briny solution. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of salt deposits on Mars. And also, where this is happening, it's too cold for it to actually be flowing water, because water would freeze at these temperatures. So obviously, the saline solution the freezing point will be lower. So less saline water would freeze, more saline would go. Salt
I've got this screenshot that I'd found, which is the south side of some dunes, and they reckon that this is CO2, solid CO2 drifting down. So I don't know whether that's part of it as well.
Possibly. I mean, this is the thing. People are speculating as to what's actually going to be announced, but this seems like the most likely because of the people that have appeared, who are on the list of the speakers. But it'll be great to know, and hopefully, what it is that they've actually analysed using whatever spectrograph type things they have, and found out that it is what the actual thing is. Because, like you say, from the pictures, it could be. Could it be like rocks or things falling down? It would cause the same sort of pattern. But it does definitely look like some sort of liquid. And I mean, what they're saying is, obviously, if it was water, it would freeze. And what they see happening is it actually darkens, and then it brightens again when the temperature drops, which they're a bit confused as to what that is. But they say it's more likely to be. The temperatures are about down to minus 43 at these sort of areas when they see this. So they're saying it could be a brine of iron sulfate or calcium chloride. That's what they suspect it might be. But hopefully tomorrow we'll find out what it is, or we'll find out it's aliens, which would always be good.
So it's liquid. They're thinking it's liquid, but not water, basically.
Not water, sort of a briny solution.
Right. Okay.
But still, if it's flowing liquid of any kind, I mean, obviously it'll contain water to a certain extent, but it's not flowing water as you would expect.
And how far of this are these photographs of the dunes and the flows? How far is that away from where the lander is, the rover is?
I don't know. I was going to look at that Newton crater. I mean, I suspect I suspect it's probably a while away.
Because they've been looking at this. I mean, they've seen this. They've known about these for a long time. I mean, the first article I saw was about 2011 on them, and again they were postulating way back then that there was some sort of briny water, or briny fluid. So I guess this will, we'll know.
Let me just share this screen as well. So this here shows you a full sort of map of Mars and where they've found. So the white up here is ice. The red is sort of salt deposits, and the blue is the sort of flows that they found in the warm seasons. Now, I can't remember where the landers are on that map, but I think the landers are more up the northern area here. I don't think that down here it's probably too cold for them. But it the fact that they've found ice, they found salt, and now they found a flow, put them together does sort of make a briny solution. So we shall see tomorrow, hopefully.
I do hope that the announcement is fairly good. I hope it's not a damn squib.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is. I was quite surprised, like I say, that the title of the NASA press release is sort of one of these ones where you think, you're setting yourself up for people being disappointed here, when the title is "Announce Mars Mystery Solved," because people are instantly going to be thinking, "Oh, it's the pyramids that we talked about ages ago," and it's like, no, they were debunked years ago. But the scientists, the mystery is what are these weird flows, but the public probably aren't really aware of that being a mystery in the first place. So they might be making a rod for their own back sort of thing by building it up like that. But it will definitely be interesting.
Talking of Mars, have you seen the film The Martian?
Not yet, but I want to.
Interesting.
Have you seen it? Have you?
No, I haven't seen it, but I've seen enough of the snippets of the trailers to form a highly
to know exactly what to
Yeah.
The book was okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, so we'll find out tomorrow. We'll tell you next week, I guess. And we'll be either elated,
slightly disappointed.
Yes. Right, now on to Richard, who was the final contributor for this episode, and he's going to talk about something again. This is picked up on national media, which is the oldest tree.
Yeah. Well, I'll go through some of the old ones, but how old do you think we might be talking about for some of the oldest trees and plants?
Oldest tree? A tree? Like, is this a proper tree, or is this like one of those things that, like, is it an actual tree as we think that's a tree?
Yeah.
It's not a trick question.
No.
I'd go 500 years.
I'm going to go wildly out, as I normally do on these things. I'm going to say 2,000 years.
Okay. Well, I'll go through some of the contenders. So there's the oldest oak tree is in Sherwood Forest, and that's dated between 800 and 1,000 years old. So that's pretty old. There's plenty of olive trees around the world that have been shown to be 2,000 years old or older. There's a fig, a sacred fig. That's the name of the tree. That's the species of the tree. In Sri Lanka, that's 2,300 years old.
How do they age a tree without cutting it down and counting its rings?
You could take like a sample of the rings.
Also,
when you go in and take when you say cheese.
Yeah.
When you get a big block of cheese and you put that thing in and pull it out, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Same type of thing.
And they do actually count. Counting the rings is how you age a tree.
Well, they do carbon dating.
There's multiple methods with it,
right,
but it is ring counting. Yeah. There's a tree in North Wales in the churchyard of a churchyard in a village in North Wales. A yew tree that's believed to be 4,000 years old. So that would have taken root during the Bronze Age, Britain's Bronze Age, when you think. There's one in Iran, again 4,000-year-old. This is
I'm so wrong in my estimate, aren't I?
a cypress tree. There's one that was the oldest, a bristlecone pine. That was 4,845-year-old in the Great Basin, and it was accidentally cut down by some researchers. So at the time, it did hold the record.
Actually, I've just read this in a book. Actually, they were researching. Were they researching just the age of a tree, and then they cut it down, and then they found out that it was really the oldest in the world, but it wasn't. But they thought it was.
Yeah.
And then subsequently they all breathed a sigh of release because a few years later they found another one which was older, and it was like,
that's exactly right. Prometheus was the name of this one. It was in the 50s, and they were trying to find the oldest tree. And obviously at the time it was, so for a couple of years they did cut down the oldest known tree, which is a bit of a faux pas, isn't it? But yeah, so we're getting up to...
But if they were cutting it down trying to find the oldest, so however they did
Well, they didn't think it was the oldest, they were just trying to date one of the members of this...
Right, I see.
this community of trees, and they were unfortunate enough to pick the one it was. But it was known to be the oldest. It was already known to be the oldest, but they didn't know that.
Just not by them, yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody told them.
Nobody told them. And it was kind of like... It was kind of like off the main trail. You had to go over quite an obscure trail to get to it. So,
and it didn't have a sign up saying this is the oldest tree ever known. It didn't have a sign up, so they just went, this'll do.
But you're right. They found one. They found one in the Rocky Mountains, the White Mountains, which is part of the Rocky Mountains. That's 5,065-year-old. So that would have outdated it anyway if they had found that. But 5,000-year-old.
So how big is this tree then? Like in terms of diameter?
Well, these are all different species. I mean, some of the 2,000-year-old ones are olive trees, and olive trees are really quite small, aren't they? So
I'm just thinking, how do you count 2,000 rings in an olive tree?
Well, I presume they use more sophisticated methods than somebody sitting.
Can they still use carbon dating on stuff that's
alive? I wouldn't have thought you could carbon date it. I wouldn't have thought so. I don't know. I don't know whether that works on living matter.
The only way that I know of, other than going 1, 2, oh damn, 50,000, damn, I've forgotten. I'll have to start again. The only way I've known is for carbon dating. But
that's definitely
these
ring.
Have all been on fossils and stuff.
Ring count, but then the age stuff they're on trees, so they must have other methods. There's a flowering plant, a tiny flowering plant that's native to South America.
Is it tiny?
It's tiny, and it lives in Peru, in the Andes, and that lives 4,000 meters up, and that's estimated to be 3,000-year-old. So that's a flowering plant that's 3,000-year-old. So that's pretty crazy. There's so now we're getting into the old. Now this is where there's a slight distinction. So these can be classed. It seems a little bit arbitrary to me, but there's a big thing about this. These are kind of colonies, so you can have shared root system, so that when one individual tree gets knocked down by the wind or whatever, or is consumed by fire, the organism carries on because the root system's the same system. Now, to me, it's still the same tree.
That's what I was thinking you were meaning before, and they can be around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years because it is, like you say, it's a colony rather than although technically is a single entity, isn't it? It's just looks like they're separate.
Yeah. Well, it can depend. They can be clones and be separate and be actually separate, or they can be still attached by a root system. That's actually more unusual. But some of the ones that are right up there happen to be that. There's a box huckleberry bush that lives in Pennsylvania, and that's thought to be 8,000 years old. There's a colony of seagrass in the Mediterranean Sea.
I know how on grass.
Seagrass.
Whoa! Now, hang on. You said tree. What is the oldest tree?
No, we're getting into plants now. I just thought I'd tell you some other really old, because these are not trees now. Because you go into colonies, they're not classed as individual trees anymore. So some of them happen to be species of tree that live as colonies.
Can we make a distinction between what conventionally we would call a tree with one trunk, And how old that is, and how old the oldest colony
is. The oldest single tree is that one that they found 2 years after the one that the bristlecone that they cut down. That was what did I say? 4,845-year-olds, and then they found one 5,065. So that's a single organisms go. That's got the record, and it is a tree.
The question that immediately springs to mind is, with all of this deforestation of rainforests, how do we know we haven't cut down one that's later?
We don't, but what tends to happen, as far as I know, is when you look at where these trees are, they tend to be more areas that are difficult to survive in. I think in a rainforest you have a lot of biodiversity in high turnover, so you have stuff just naturally would decompose. It's humid, there's a lot going on, there's a lot living there, whereas these tend to be like very isolated out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
There's a great example of one that was in the middle of a desert in Nigeria, and it wasn't one of the oldest ones, but it had been there a long time. It was very, very famous because it was 40 kilometers all around. There was nothing else, so it had been a forest that had died back, and there was one remaining tree. So it became like a passing point and an important landmark. And guess how it was? Guess how it was killed?
I was hit by a car, wasn't it?
It was hit by a drunk driver.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. The only tree for miles.
He still managed to hit it. A Libyan truck driver, drunk driving. But yeah, so 5,065 is the tree. There's a huckleberry bush that's 8,000. The seagrass is thought to be 12,000 years old at least, but it's got a theoretical age because obviously they can't accurately date that. There's an oak colony that's estimated to be 13,000 years old. And finally, there's a quaking aspen colony. Called Pando, or the Trembling Giant. So this is above ground trunk, so this does take the form of traditional trees, so to me I sort of think you could count it. But it's got basically a massive subterranean root system, and they're all joined by it. So obviously if a tree gets felled, another one will pop up from the same root system.
Right.
Guess how old it is?
20,000 years.
80,000 years old.
Where's that?
It is. I haven't written it down. I haven't written down where it is.
I want to know why it's called a quaking or a trembling tree. Does it?
No. Quaking aspen is the Latin name.
Oh right, so it's called trembling because it. Yeah. Okay.
And the Trembling Giant is the name of. I think it's a take on the Latin name. Yeah.
How old was that? The oak. That was it. 13,000.
Oak 13,000 at least.
Yeah, I tell you what, you do not want to tell Oak Furniture Land where that is, because that'll be a set of wardrobes or a bedside table, or tell you straight away.
They must have problems accurately dating that because it's probably protected, I suppose. But the estimates are very widely between 5,000 and 30,000. But the experts say they can agree on that it's at least 13,000. But yeah, 80,000. So it's always interesting that there's some people, or in fact there's a lot of people in the States who believe the Earth is not.
Yeah. Those damn creationists, I'll tell you, they'll not be believing that. No. They'll not be believing that shit. None of that. 80,000, but that's impossible. It must have come from a different planet, but we don't believe that either. Oh my God, my head's going to explode.
It's kind of like it's getting on for what, a third of the time that modern humans have actually existed. This tree colony has been alive. It's mad.
Well, that is damned impressive. It's a damned impressive stat, which amazingly brings us to the end, right on cue. Oh, that's brilliant. Except there is something else that we need to talk about quickly at the end. Supermoon.
Oh yes, I was going to say about that. Yeah. you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, you may as well talk about it.
As well, yeah. So basically, yeah, there's a supermoon and a total lunar eclipse tonight, isn't there?
It is indeed.
So both happening at the same time. But I was looking. I
About
was
3
actually.
o'clock in this morning.
Yeah, I was looking at the time. It
tomorrow
starts at 1 o'clock, finishes at 6. So unfortunately, as usual, when these sort of things happen, it's at a really awkward time. If it was a Saturday night, I'd stay up and watch it.
Yeah.
It's a work time.
Brian Cox, because I was obviously Brian Cox, who was on the One Show on Friday, I think it was. He was basically saying, "You've got to be there 3 o'clock. That's when it's going to hit. That's peak time, eclipse time." And it's a supermoon, which means obviously because the moon's orbit is elliptical, this is the closest part it gets to Earth. So obviously it's 14% larger than you would normally see. So it looks massive. And then the eclipse gives us this red hue, which is where obviously it goes behind the Earth, so it's blocking out the sun. But because of the particles in the atmosphere, it refracts the red colour more than anything, and that's why it gives it red blood moon. It's called. So it should be pretty good. Unfortunately, I'll let some cameraman see it and show me it on the telly, because I'm not getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately, if it was last week and I was on holiday, it would have been brilliant. But unfortunately,
yeah, exactly.
I'm back to work tomorrow. So
it's always when there's meteor showers or aurora or something like that. It always seems to happen on a Sunday night.
But plus the fact that you normally get much better views than I would, because I am slap bang in the middle of a town, so it's just pointless in me even trying.
Yeah, you'd have to drive quite a bit.
Yeah, I'll just get out on top of the hill and where there's no street lights. So, although I should be able to see a 14% bigger moon. You know.
Well, you would have thought so.
Yes, so anyway, that is the end of the show this week. As always, we've enjoyed doing it again, and we hope you enjoy watching it or listening to it, because we have it on podcast and vodcast. And interestingly, I've now essentially finished the RSS feed little script, and I've put it on GitHub. So if you want to go and see it, github.com/jeg1972. And unless to be honest, it's going to be of absolute no use to you, because unless you've got a podcast called Wondrous Stuff, it's not going to be any good for you. But there you go. Anyway, so as always, we've all had our Twitter handles on all evening, and we've got the email address of wondrousstuff@gmail.com, which we can all see and share. Please email us. And our URL is still wondrousstuff.blogspot.com, because I still haven't worked out how to get wondrousstuff.com to point to it and not lose that URL. Anyway, that's onwards and onwards. So have a good time, everybody. Have a good week, and we'll see you same bat time, same bat channel next time. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.